From a balcony in downtown Oklahoma City, history was being made on a spring night in 1949.
A production studio, high above the audience of the Little Theater, took the action that played out on this stage, then beamed it into homes across our state.
It was Oklahoma's first look at something new called television, and it could only be found in one place, Channel 4.
WKY-TV, Channel 4 in Oklahoma City.
KTVY, Oklahoma City.
You're watching News Channel 4. From Oklahoma's News 4, celebrating 75 years of broadcasting excellence, this is a special presentation, The Visionaries.
Hi, I'm Kevin O'Rourke.
And I'm Jolene Cheney. We are back on that same stage where it all began 75 years ago.
Back where a group of visionaries bet on something no one in Oklahoma had ever seen before.
June 6th, 1949. 8 miles west of Oklahoma City, what looked like a stately home sitting along Highway 66 was actually the WKY transmitting plant, a modern marvel in the 1940s that would help send Channel 4 signal to newfangled hardware that was popping up in neighborhoods across the state. The plan was the brainchild of E.K. Gaylord, a media mogul in his time, owner of 2 newspapers and WKY radio. For this businessman, television was a natural switch to flip. After years of preparation, Channel 4 signal was sent from a stage in downtown Oklahoma City, back then at a place known as Little Theater, and what's now the Civic Center.
WKY-TV, Channel 4 in Oklahoma City. It's 10 o'clock.
Oklahoma television was born, and with it, one of the hottest selling items of the 1950s.
There were no TV sets left in Oklahoma City. And so what a few entrepreneurs learned to do, they said, well, we'll buy a TV set and put it in our window of our restaurant or our laundromat or our place of business, and people will gather to watch.
And did they ever? Public viewings were everywhere. According to one newspaper report at the time, 1,000 people sat outside a business in Tulsa just hoping to see the first official transmission. The stars were aligned for success. But in rural Oklahoma, where radio had always been king, LaVonna Devon was a kid who'd been raised on the sound of WKY.
We listened to it on the radio.
WKY.
A lot of farm crop news, because a lot of the people listening to radio were out on the farms and ranches.
LaVonna remembers when the magnetic glow of television changed everything. It drew her family and neighbors from the farm to a store just outside Binger, Oklahoma, to catch a glimpse.
We were just kids.
But her fondest memory was her senior class trip to WKY Studios in Oklahoma City to watch a live broadcast in 1952, just 3 years after WKY went on the air.
I'm almost 89 and I still remember we went to Channel 4 and watched them have their news and weather. That has been the highlight of my life. I've remembered every bit of it.
The oldest broadcast video in Oklahoma in existence today is from that very year, 1952.
Everyone who studied the history of television in Oklahoma knows that WKY was the pioneering station.
During those early years, WKY was the trailblazer, the first on air, the first in color.
WKY in Oklahoma City got the first color cameras west of the Mississippi River. Probably one of the first 10 stations in the country to get color.
Innovators, pioneers.
Today we are firing at a short range. 3, 2, 1, fire.
Whether it was the firing of an atomic cannon at Fort Sill in 1953 or the circus coming to town.
Came to Wetumpka selling some advertising on a circus that was supposed to be here.
A fire in downtown Duncan causing $500,000 in damages. WKY was the first to give Oklahomans a front row seat to history in the making.
They were hiring some of the best talent to come in, behind the camera, in front of the camera, in the engineering booth, in the control booth.
WKY was also the first to broadcast live sporting events, including horse racing, track and field, Native American stickball, Oklahoma football, and in the summer of 2009, the first in Oklahoma to broadcast in high definition.
And so with technology, with talent, and they brought true journalism. Is it true? Is it the right thing to do? Is it something we should air? Making those decisions on a daily basis.
It's what's carried WKY, KTVY, and now KFOR through 75 years.
LaVonna, do you still watch Channel 4?
Every day. Is there another?
WKY really set the standard for television, not just in Oklahoma City, but in the nation.
The folks at Channel 4 were inventing and innovating as they went along.
And that included what would become the news department, where the reputation and the character of a station are built. Journalist Linda Cavanaugh spent 40 years in the Channel 4 newsroom.
She was a witness to some of the dramatic changes in the way we document our state's history.
Black and white film, 16 millimeter, no sound. Cameras like these captured the first news to be televised in Oklahoma. E.K. Gaylord had requested and received FCC permission to go on the air.
Mr. Gaylord, he told groups that he wanted Oklahoma City to have the best television available.
And it was. For almost 5 years, it was the only channel available in Oklahoma City. Channel 4 WKY-TV.
We had never seen television. Downtown Stillwater, there was a merchant who had a set in his window and he left it on after hours. I remember very clearly the moment. I watched that for a little bit, and for some reason I said to myself, this is what I want to do. This is my future.
Gene Allen joined the men in the Channel 4 newsroom to pioneer this revolutionary new technology.
I feel we have left the United States for a foreign land. The speaker was riding a bus into Mississippi.
Channel 4 reporters traveled to cover issues of national importance, much of their work appearing on NBC News, much of it produced by Gene Allen.
This was the standard camera.
Gene and others who held these early cameras not only pioneered news gathering, they wrote the ethics of this new technology.
That commitment to the truth, to finding what's important to our viewers, and covering that with integrity, I think set a standard that other stations would strive to follow.
And yet television news was still in its early years, literally a hands-on process.
We had to edit by tearing strips of film. It was pretty primitive.
Primitive yet groundbreaking, drawing talent from across the nation.
The station had such a reputation that we were able to get the best reporters, photographers.
Those at the anchor desk were reporters first, watchdogs for accuracy. They became familiar faces, often staying in their positions for decades. But just as importantly as those in front of the camera,
use it where he walked out of frame,
were those behind it, the backbone of the newsroom, like photographer Oliver Murray, who had 3 guidelines.
We knew what to shoot, when to shoot, and who to shoot. We just didn't go out there and rip and run with a camera.
Our archives show cameras focused on politicians, entertainers, and the pandemonium that followed. There were also those events that changed our lives, and reminders of Mother Nature at her worst. Channel 4 cameras captured history as it happened. But film had its limitations until new technology took viewers live to breaking news.
We had something called a microwave. Channel 4 was the first. It just put it in your front room, put you at the scene of the action, wherever the action was. It took that audience and put you right there beside me.
Having the best people, the best toys and equipment to pull it off. And with that experience, here comes the rest of the world.
The Channel 4 tower has stood as a beacon, watching history unfold for 75 years. E.K. Gaylord's vision was for Channel 4 to be the leader, for integrity to always match new innovation. Then and now.
From Channel 4, Oklahoma's leading news station, this is The News.
And over the decades, the newsroom built a legacy of excellence. Channel 4 holds the distinction of having more members of the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame than any other television station in the state.
As Channel 4 was growing and gaining success, there was something very important missing from those early broadcasts, and it took a long time to get it fixed.
More on that coming up. And as we take you to break, we're going to go back to a time when commercials were either done live,
just one look and you'll know they are Cole Haan,
or they look like this, advertising as art.
I keep on asking over and over again, am I your baby?
Welcome back. You know, you can't talk about Channel 4 without talking about the weather. It's a big part of what we do.
When Channel 4 moved from its home here at the Little Theater to a real studio, the weather department took off.
And once again, the station was breaking new ground, but this time they did it by breaking the law. The early days of television forecasting could have benefited from a magic wand. Stations didn't have their own radars back then. Forecasters relied on maps and information carefully parsed out by the federal government.
Harry Volkman, the weatherman. Our reading just a minute ago of 69 was the coolest for the day.
Much of the on-air time was spent delivering the high temps of the day. Pretty much uneventful until it wasn't.
So his first day on the air, after he finished the show, he went home and there was an earthquake. And it was the first earthquake that Oklahoma City had had in decades.
Channel 4 meteorologist Harry Volkman's granddaughter Abby Berry and her sister Carly remembering hearing about their famous grandfather's momentous arrival on Channel 4 in 1952. But a few days after his first day on the air, according to Volkman's autobiography, things took a much more dramatic turn.
We had 2 tornado alerts this afternoon.
Volkman learned there was a tornado threat in the viewing area. In those days, the federal government didn't want broadcasters issuing the tornado warnings, fearing it could cause widespread panic.
Now, the military didn't want us to do it. The program director didn't want us to do it. Won't we get in trouble? And I didn't want to do it. I just didn't feel good about it. I said we could get arrested.
The station manager that was like, if anybody's going to get arrested, it'll be me. And you need to do this. And so he went on the air and he broadcasted the tornado warning.
And made history. Harry Volkman became the first weather forecaster in the entire country to issue a televised tornado warning, putting Channel 4 in the history books and on the wrong side of the law. Thankfully, that weather system didn't result in a tornado touchdown or federal agents arresting anyone. But a couple of years later, Volkman was in the Channel 4 weather department when the Oklahoma skies turned black once again.
May 1st, 1954, at about 6 o'clock, gets a tip that there's a tornado on the ground just setting down on the northwest side of Shawnee. He goes on the air with a tornado warning and mentions the town of Meeker. Well, the F4, which was wide, long-tracked and violent, devastates Meeker. And Meeker has advanced warning.
If it hadn't been for that tornado warning, some of us might have been hurt.
And that warning helped save lives.
My dad was telling me once, because we had been talking about the book and things, and he said, you know, I don't think your grandpa even included in the book that people would come up to him and say, we got in our storm shelter because of your warning and came up and our house was gone. And you literally saved our lives.
The rest of your house sheltered you.
It's a story that's been repeated throughout the decade. A sustained legacy with the forewarned storm team time and again sending out the critical warning, protecting families across the state.
Going to be traveling east.
The ultimate commitment to Oklahoma viewers. Harry Volkman has the distinction of being the first person to appear on color TV in Oklahoma. The station had a contest to see which program viewers wanted to see in color first, and they chose Harry Volkman's weather segment.
What follows weather? Sports, of course. We all know Oklahomans love football, and the only thing they love more than football is watching it on television. When Channel 4's cameras began capturing the action on the field, it opened a whole new world to the fans.
Holds up, the kick is rushed. Well,
then, to satisfy the fans' need for more, the station launched the very first coaches show in America.
Inside Football with Bud Wilkinson.
In the 50s, OU coach Bud Wilkinson had the looks of a television star. Mix that with his knowledge of the game, and you had a nationally syndicated hit.
and could not catch him as the halfback scored.
Back then, even a demonstration of how padding works was enough to keep audiences enthralled.
But you can really hit them a real good lick.
The show paved the way for today's non-stop sports analysis.
This is Bob Barry Jr. I want to introduce him tonight formally because he makes his debut tomorrow.
But you can't talk Channel 4 sports without mentioning the Barrys, the father and son of television sportscasting in our state.
Good evening, everyone.
Bob spent 50 years covering every facet of sports on Oklahoma soil.
Touchdown, Oklahoma!
His love for all games showed in the way he broadcast.
He's a 5, he's a 2, he's the 1. Touchdown, Cowboys!
And later, those broadcasts showed his love for son Bobby.
Yeah, get ready. You're on, kid.
It's OSU gets to do it all themselves, and then they're going to have the stop. We're going to be back with Brian Brinkley and the rest of sports coming up.
Who ended up building his own impressive career covering Oklahoma athletes.
I'm just laying here saying, why not just stay at the arena, man? I mean, the game just ended, didn't it? Think about the numbers. The teams combined for 206 shots. They made 90 free throws, and they grabbed 109 rebounds.
Both men were adored by the audience, and both ended up as members of the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame.
From the beginning, audiences depended on Channel 4 to stay informed.
But they also wanted to be entertained. And back in the day, that meant Oklahoma musicians were quickly becoming local celebrities on TV. It also meant opportunity for young singers like Buck Owens, whose show, taped at Channel 4 studios, ended up being nationally syndicated.
And all I gotta do is act naturally.
As Kent Ogle shows us, Channel 4 was the place for celebrities to be seen.
Do you know the way to San Jose?
Dionne Warwick singing her smash hit written by Oklahoman Jimmy Webb. Tons of huge stars knew their way to Oklahoma City, performing in the now legendary 4th of July Stars and Stripes shows of the 1970s, produced by Channel 4 and shown nationally on NBC.
Oklahoma and all parts of this country.
So we had stars like Bob Hope, Tennessee Ernie Ford, Kate Smith, The Fifth Dimension, Dionne Warwick, Mike Douglas, and just every year Doc Severinsen, and we always had Les Brown and his band of renown. So that was a real kick, and those were real fun shows to do.
Let's bring in this entertainer who was the example of public service with USO shows during World War II, entertaining the troops when they had no entertainment. Bob Hope.
You know that one of the delegates wants to legalize marijuana? I guess that's one way to get your campaign off the ground.
At his shoulder was Anita Bryant, born in Barnesdall, Oklahoma.
And the sports heroes, many with Oklahoma ties.
Greg Pruitt of the Cleveland Browns, former New York Yankee Allie Reynolds.
Household names like Ron Howard, Dolly Parton, and Kenny Rogers graced Channel 4 cameras from the earliest days.
You started bringing this national talent to Oklahoma City, and so WKY really set the standard for television, not just in Oklahoma City, but in the nation.
Channel 4's reputation was everywhere, and it was such an honor to be a part of that.
Call me Snake.
You got it. By the way, call me Worm.
Dino Lally was one of the first local entertainment reporters in the country. He interviewed a parade of stars in the Channel 4 studios: Frankie Avalon, Deidre Hall, Dinah Shore, Jason Bateman, names that became legends in music, stage, and television, including a young and upcoming comedian.
I've been doing this thing about the Oklahoma license plate. I love that very modest slogan, Oklahoma, it's okay. We're okay, it's okay.
He would call me saying, hey, I'm coming through the Comedy Store here, was it Joker's? And said, you know, would you be able to interview me to promote the show? And I said, sure.
Stars so big, even Dino got nervous.
I think Charlton Heston may have been one of those, having grown up watching his movies. But he was great, and I was really starstruck with him walking in. But he could not have been kinder and nicer.
Even through 3/4 of a century of the biggest names, Dino sums it up pretty well. The real star of the show is Oklahoma's first television station, Channel 4.
To be a part of the history of this incredible station, that alone is such an honor.
Coming up, what turned out to be one of Channel 4's greatest assets.
But in the beginning, it was nothing but an afterthought.
Channel 4, congratulations on your 75th.
Happy 75th, Channel 4. Your forecast is looking good for the next 75.
Channel 4, congratulations on your 75th.
It's clear. Channel 4 seemed to have it all from the very beginning. The first television broadcast in the state, the first color programming, the first tornado warning. As Allie Meyer shows us, though, there's something missing from those early newscasts: women.
While Channel 4 was making history on the air, off camera, an army of women was making it happen.
I started as a receptionist and relieving on the old switchboard.
In the 1950s, women's roles were limited in this male-dominated industry. Carruthers was the first to be promoted from receptionist to film editor.
Inside football.
Specializing in football highlights.
And secondly, when the ball will be snapped.
She worked through the night, often splicing together game footage for the legendary Bud Wilkinson show.
They would fly the film to Dallas, process it, get it back to me to start editing it. And it might be in the middle of the night, and I would work all night to get it on the air, maybe at 9 o'clock in the morning.
In 1972, the first newswoman joined the broadcast, Pam Henry.
Thank you very much.
And 5 years later, this wide-eyed OU grad walked through the door.
Do you remember feeling like a pioneer? Or did you feel like...
I felt like an idiot. I just thought I had so much to learn.
The beginning of a historic 40-year run at News 4. Linda swiftly advanced from reporter to anchor.
Ernie Schultz called me in the office and he said, well, we want to try something new. I said, what is that? And he said, we'd like for you to start co-anchoring the news. He said, but it may or may not work. And I said, well, we can give it a try. And I guess it worked.
The experiment was a wild success, securing Linda Kavanaugh as a household name in Oklahoma.
What did you love about the work?
Everything. I loved everything. I loved photography. I loved the editing process. I loved meeting people and going out and finding stories. There wasn't anything I didn't like. And it was just, it was almost as though it was meant to be.
Kavanaugh's singular career opened the door for a number of award-winning newscasters: Uzi Brown Washington, Bella Shaw, and Jane Giroux. Of course, this beauty queen was a star on camera. As Miss America, Giroux was the first to travel to a war zone, to entertain troops in Vietnam, and Channel 4 was there.
Today in sports.
And by 1984, Channel 4 was once again smashing stereotypes with two women on the news desk in prime time.
It's really amazing to think that we stepped out into that arena to be the first women who were on primetime newscasts.
75 years trend-setting at the Circle 4 Ranch. Local programming, innovative storytelling, glass ceiling smashing by a generation of women who refused to stay in the shadows.
Do you know what hasn't changed in those 75 years is the demand for quality. It was here the day I came, and it was here the day I left, that if you were going to do something, you needed to do it right. And if it wasn't right, then don't air it.
An unwavering standard that remains our guiding light, even today. Allie Meyer, Oklahoma's News 4.
And what a contribution women have made to our station. Linda Kavanaugh is known as the First Lady of Broadcasting in Oklahoma. She has a home full of Emmy Awards for her incredible work.
And just this year, Allie Meyer led the Channel 4 team that received a nomination for the highest award in journalism, the Peabody. She was recognized for the decades she spent investigating a case involving an innocent man named Glenn Simmons. Simmons spent 48 years behind bars for a murder he did not commit. Allie's reporting on Channel 4 led to a court decision that finally freed him.
Through the years, Channel 4 became known for its talented storytellers.
One of the best, a reporter named Bob Dotson. He ended up working for NBC, but he always carried with him the lessons he learned in the Channel 4 newsroom.
Good journalism doesn't come in a can of hairspray. News photographer Daryl Barton taught me that. I joined the Channel 4 news team in 1969. The first Ogle to sit in the anchor chair, Jack, gave us rookies good advice. If one person says it's raining and another says it's clear, your job is to look out the window. News is regular life, with the lid pried off. We look for stories that add meaning to the chaos we cover. Those long ago lessons linger to remind us of what it takes to keep a community together. Our boss, Ernie Schultz, told me to search for the significance in everyday life. Wisdom doesn't always wear a suit. So that's why local television is so important. It tells the story of our lives, told by people we trust. For 75 years, Oklahoma's first television station has been one of the family. For some, that is more than a slogan. On election night in 1970, everyone in the building pitched in to help our small news staff. The boss suggested I keep an eye on Linda Puckett. She's smart. I have, for half a century. The station paid for our honeymoon suite and gave us 2 free tickets to the Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Only good on our wedding night. We still got them. Happy 75th.
Maybe he can get a refund on those tickets.
Right.
As we close tonight, we want to dedicate this program to the men and women of Channel 4 who helped build the station from the ground up.
The Visionaries, who served the community for 75 years, and the next generation who will be tasked with carrying the commitment forward.